Hello, this is Brian Funk here to pitch my concept on a game centered around emotional intelligence titled Box Buddy. So I'll just jump straight into it, explaining how the game works and how it relates to emotional intelligence. To start, you play as Mr. Mustache Man, a man with a magnificent mustache. You begin in a factory setting all by yourself and can move around using WASD. As you explore a linear setting, you'll come across two men beating up a poor defenseless box. You are tasked with confronting them with two options. Option 1 has the player fight the two men, which is guaranteed to fail, as one man is equipped with a baseball bat and the player only has their fists. The second option has the player talk to the two men about the situation and get them to disengage, which will succeed, ending the first level. Now, for how this relates to emotional intelligence. The first section teaches the player about emotional self-awareness, which leads to emotional self-control, as the player must control their emotions and not jump straight into violence. It also teaches empathy, as you don't want the mysterious box to be harmed, organizational awareness, as you gather that there's conflict between the two parties shown, and positive outlook, as it shows that seeing the good and reasonability in the two men has the most successful outcome and influence. But let's move on to level 2. The player now speaks with the box they have saved and discovers that this is none other than Box Buddy, the friendly box, and he's here to help you on your journey to reach the end of the factory. Happily, the player and Box Buddy team up, with the player carrying him around. Eventually, the player stumbles across a big open room with a large gap that is uncrossable. They also find a crane which can be interacted with, so they place Box Buddy down and operate the machinery to pick Box Buddy up. Using WASD, the player can bring Box Buddy to all points in the room. The player is then meant to figure out how to get Box Buddy onto the large ominous button at the other side of the room. They can press F to then tell Box Buddy he's doing great up there, which he will thank you for, and may even give you a tip on the puzzle if you're lucky. The player can press space to drop Box Buddy at any point, but if he falls over a pit, it's game over. When Box Buddy is dropped onto the large ominous button, platforms will appear, allowing the player to cross and take Box Buddy to the next stage. Once again, on to how this relates to emotional intelligence. So this section is very focused on teamwork, as the task cannot be completed without the help of Box Buddy and the player's talents. It also shows aspects of conflict management, since being suspended in the air is a tense situation for the player to help Box Buddy through, and coach and mentor, where the player gives Box Buddy their feedback and support. We will now move on to the final level. The player carries Box Buddy into a new room with another large ominous button and a locked door. When Box Buddy is placed onto the large ominous button, the door opens and closes when Box Buddy is not on the button, so the player must continue by themselves. The next section is a platforming section where Box Buddy will observe through a glass window and tell the player they are doing great through a speaker, and possibly give some tips on the puzzle they are working on. At the end, the player will find a small auspicious button and press it, in which Box Buddy will fall from the sky, and the player and Box Buddy can continue on their journey with similar puzzles. Now, as this relates to emotional intelligence, this stage introduces adaptability, as the player is not used to solving puzzles without the help of Box Buddy. Achievement orientation, where feedback is appreciated and success is driven for, and inspirational leadership, to show Box Buddy how much of a tough cookie you are, and how to inspire him through leadership. Finally, how this relates to my specialty of 3D modeling props. Box Buddy himself is a prop, and the game is set in a 3D world, so 3D modeling is a requirement to achieve the goal of teaching players about emotional intelligence. Now, that's going to wrap up my game concept for Box Buddy. Thank you very much for listening.